Hello and welcome to EatSure presents the RCB podcast.
Yeah, he was. He's probably the most giving and loyal person that I've probably ever met. Generous, not just with what he did with his charity work and all that sort of stuff, but generous with his knowledge and time.
Yeah.
He actively sought out young spinners before games, like during their warm-ups, to talk them through different skill sets and like different techniques, and trying to help them out, trying to make them the best version of themselves, which is an amazing thing. And every player that ever came across him and would talk to him about like the skill, leg spin or whatever it is, felt like they had a connection instantly, because that's the way he made you feel. It's like he makes you feel like your best friend straight away. And he's able to sort of, I think I saw a video of him just stopping and talking to this kid. The guy said, "Oh, look, my son bowls left." He goes, "All right, we'll grab a ball and start bowling some, and I'll watch what you've got." It was just like in the car park, and he sort of talked to him about his wrist and all that sort of stuff. And that was what he was like. He knew he had an amazing skill set and an amazing ability to do something, and he just wanted to help other people as well. And
Hi there, my name is Danish and welcome to the RCB podcast. The theme for this podcast is moments that have been game-changing for one's career. And my guest for today is Glenn Maxwell.
good to be back.
I actually had a great time this morning watching one of the highlights of, I think it was your 7th game for your domestic team, Victoria, where you scored 61 of 27 balls. And the emotion when you got out, I realized is the same emotion that you have even now in 2022. You just don't like leaving the field.
That was a big moment, because it was my first 50, and I thought it was my first chance to win a game for my state. And well, I think when I was batting, it was the first time at that level that I'd started to show what I could do at that level, and show that I could dominate an attack. And to get sort of so close, I've dragged it back from the team. I dragged the team back from needing 12 and over with only 2 wickets in hand to, I think we only needed 18 off the last 2 overs or something like that. Yeah. And I was batting with Peter Siddle at the other end, and I felt like I could get the job done just by myself. And I got out to a full toss that I hit to the short boundary, directly to the fielder, and I felt like that was a moment lost to win a game properly. And even though we ended up winning the game, which is remarkable, Peter Siddle hit a couple of boundaries and in the last 2 overs to get us home. But I thought that could have been a moment where I could set myself up as a finisher, and a consistent finisher. And but in the end, I sort of got us close and didn't quite finish the job. So that could have been a moment. That could have been a moment where I could have changed the history of, if I had got us over the line there. I could have built on that confidence and been able to sort of keep on going and carry on that finish in the game role, where I think for a few years at the start of my career, I did a lot of half jobs where I batted really well, but would get out really close to the end because I was going too hard, or I was trying to do too much, where it would have been nice to finish the job in that first game. But looking back, I was so young, and I had no idea what I was doing as well. Like I never batted like that, even for my club team.
Wow.
To go out there and dominate a really good attack, and hit a lot of like fours and sixes, and to be able to do that at domestic level for the first time really was it probably opened my eyes a little bit, and then sort of showed me what I could possibly do, and probably pigeonholed me for a while after that, and it took a while for me to actually sort of show that I was a longer format cricketer as well.
I was watching the highlights, and there's a part where the coach of the team is talking about this bright young man who's in the team, and he's talking about you while you're batting. And he says he's already hit a couple of boundaries, and you just hit one right as he says that. And it goes to the boundary, and he says, there, he's hit another one. If he can hit a few more of those, we'll see ourselves over the line. And you guys actually won that game. And what I noticed was you got out and you went back and you sat in the dugout where the chairs were, and just the intent with which you were watching the game. And I feel like we're really fortunate today that we get to kind of hang with you and see you do what you do with RCB. And the passion's been the same. It's kind of not really gone anywhere. 11 years later, what keeps the fire burning?
I think the hunger for winning, success, being involved in a successful side.
Yeah.
Like, there's no greater feeling. I think sometimes you can get caught up on personal success, and that can be what drives you. But winning games of cricket and being able to celebrate with a team is what drives me. I feel like that's something I get a real high off, and people get their high off skydiving, extreme sports, or whatever.
Yeah.
I love winning games of cricket. Like, it's being a part of it. I don't have to do anything during the game, just to be a part of a win and see the joy throughout the change room. You get back to the hotel, you enjoy each other's company after the game, and you talk about things. It's such a positive environment. It lifts everyone, and that feeling is really hard to recreate, I feel, anywhere else. And it's always been something that really drives me, and that's what motivates me to go to training and try to get better, and help out around the team, try and help other guys get better, and stuff like that is just, it's really focusing. It really helps you focus, I reckon.
I was speaking to Faf earlier, and I was speaking to you now, and the theme seems to be somewhat similar. There's this mad desire to win. Every time I look up these interviews online of people talking about a Michael Jordan or a Kobe Bryant, and they talk about this almost crazy desire. It's almost beast mode to say, I want to win. Is that something that propels you as well? It clearly seems like it does.
Yeah, to a point where it can also be a little bit
Destructive?
yeah, maybe like a little bit. It can make you a little bit crazy. It can make you a little bit mental. It can sometimes change you into a slightly different person. You can get overly aggressive or passionate, aggressive, whatever it is, and show your emotions too much. And you can see when I take a wicket, I go a little bit crazy.
Yeah.
And it's no one in particular. It's just that emotion all coming out to try and pump up my teammates. It's nothing to do with who I'm bowling to or anything in particular. It's just raw emotion coming out of excitement and wanting the teammates to sort of get up and about and have a bit of, and get them up and about. But it can lead to probably wanting to do too much as well. So sometimes if you feel the game slipping away, you're trying to impact yourself into the game if you're not doing anything. So if you're just in the field, you're trying to do everything you can to help. But sometimes that can be destructive.
Yeah.
Like, you've got the captain there working on his plans with the with the bowlers, and you're trying to change things as well. You're trying to help out, but without knowing that they've actually just got it calm, but you want to try and impart something on it. So, and that's been really good with FAF, I suppose, this year. We've been actually able to work together really well. So, being able to drive that same message through those channels, working with DK as well, has worked really well, and hasn't worked every game because of obviously the different conditions that we've sort of seen throughout the tournament. But it's as far as the whole tournament, it's been actually really consistent. The consistent voice, the consistent calmness. I think that we've been able to sort of streamline that message through the captain to the bowlers and have them really calm has been a key thing for us. But yeah, having that over emotion of and over want to perform and win, it can get to a stage where it's destructive.
Talk to us about that 2015 World Cup when you got 100. It must have been incredibly satisfying. Again, I was watching the highlights and I could almost see you kind of have that sigh of relief, and you looked relaxed after that 100. It was almost like a weight of expectations, or was it the burden? What was it?
Well, I was actually going through a reasonably tough time during the World Cup with my personal life, and the person who I confided in was Shane Watson during that time.
And you were batting together.
And we were batting together, and that was the first game that he was back in the side because I think Mitch Marsh had been playing instead of him at that stage, and he came back in and we batted together, and there'd been a lot of just sort of outside sort of for the last, I don't know, maybe 12 months before that I hadn't got 100 for Australia. I think I had something like 590s where I was still going hard, still just trying to get the team into a position where we could win. I never really thought about hundreds. But the more that people mention it and talked about it, the more I started to think about it and like sort of get worried about it. And I got out earlier in the tournament for 88 against Afghanistan, and there were still 8 overs left, and it was only off like 40 balls or something like that. But I didn't feel anything. It was just whatever. It didn't bother me. But people were like sort of saying, "Oh, you can't get 100." Like looking at the list of people with a lot of runs quickly who couldn't get hundreds, and to me it never really mattered.
Yeah.
But because it was a time in the game where we needed a few more runs. Sangakkara I think he had 300s in a row at that time, and after our game,
was special for him.
And then he got his 4th 100 in a row against us. So we knew that they had great batting. That we knew that we had to make a big total. So to get 100 there, I think at that stage it was the quickest 100 for Australia in one-day cricket. That was really special. But to have Watto at the other end there for my first international 100 at a big time during your home World Cup was so special.
Winning a World Cup must have been big for you.
Yeah, I think the build-up and all the emotion of it.
Right.
Having so many people doubt us before the tournament.
Yeah.
Because we hadn't played together. We hadn't actually sort of come together as a group before that. We knew we had a bunch of great T20 players that are always over here for the IPL, not always playing the Big Bash,
right.
Generally playing in different parts of the world. But we knew the players that we did have in Australia, if we got those guys together in a team finally, there'd be a hell of a T20 side. And for this World Cup, we finally got it. We finally got them all together. There was no resting guys. There was no test guys being put on ice for a test series. We're all together. We've got a great team. We've got a brilliant bowling attack, and we've got our best batting lineup possible. So to have that belief in the group, looking around going, we've got all the makings of a fantastic T20 team who can beat anyone on their day. And after the loss that we had to England, the group just got tighter, and we went, you know what? This is it. No more mistakes, no more last chances. This is it. And from that day on, I think throughout the squad, we all just thought, we're going to win the World Cup.
Wow. Maxi, let's talk a little bit about the retention. It came as no surprise to any of us. I'm sure even to you as well. But how happy were you to be back with RCB?
Yeah, I was certainly very excited, and you never know what's going to happen because
Of course, you knew what was going to happen,
well, you
Maxi.
didn't because
Oh, it was the big auctions.
it's a big auction.
Yeah, right.
And like with how many people they weren't at RCB weren't to retain, we had obviously a couple of bowlers,
Right.
Siraj, Harshal, Yuzi, AB, Virat, Dev, young Indian players that all could have been retained at some stage.
Fair. I take what I said back. Yeah.
So that there was to retain an overseas batter. Sometimes isn't the smartest move.
Right.
It's a big risk. You're relying on form. You're relying on good players around them to set the platform up. So sometimes it seems straightforward, but in my head there was obviously a lot more that had to go through. And when I obviously got the phone call that I was going to be retained, I was pumped. I was excited and couldn't wait to stick around. But
Was it Mike that called you? Was it Sanjay?
yeah, so Mike and me had been chatting for a while, and just he said, "Let me know about retention." So they obviously had to have a bunch of meetings, but cross the fingers and hope for the best. And but yeah, they said they'd obviously like me to stay, but we'll see what happens. And luckily enough for me, I was able
So
to.
left it a cliffhanger there.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, which could mean anything.
Okay. Yeah. And then,
It's like the Indian 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I'll call you back in 5 minutes, and 3 days later you get a phone call. Yeah, so to get that calming, I suppose, knowing that you don't have to go through the stress of the auction
yeah.
it's a wonderful feeling. Believe me, it's not nice going through the auction and sort of seeing other people go for certain amounts. You're like, oh, it's not a very big auction. Like we thought it was going to be a mega auction, but players are going for a lot less this year, and all of a sudden, I can understand how the guys were sort of stressing watching it, going, "Oh, am I even going to go? Where am I going to go? There's 10 teams, no one's bidding." Because it was a little bit standoffish, I think, for the first bit of the IPL auction. There was players going willy-nilly for not much.
Yeah.
And it was only when teams needed certain things that's when the prices started to go. So it was fun watching, knowing that I'm fine. I know where I'm going, but to be, I suppose, in the background, trying to sort of stay in contact with the crew and sort of seeing what the strategy was, and yeah, watch it all unfold.
The last 6 or 8 months, I can't think of another person who's had it so eventful. You had a great IPL season, then you go win the World Cup, then you get married, then you come back to RCB. There's no EB de Villiers, and it's in some strange form or way for the fans and for people within the team as well. You've taken that place. That's just a lot for one human being. And I know how emotional you are as a person, because Maxwell is all heart. You're one giant heart who's just masquerading as a human being walking around. How have you dealt with all of this, Maxi?
Yeah, it's certainly been a busy time, and I think once the wedding was done, it was actually a good time to relax, and
Yeah.
like we were actually both able to. Me and my wife were able to sit back and go, okay, it's done. We can move on to the next chapter now. And I think the stress beforehand actually overtook cricket comfortably. So it was
The wedding stress?
yeah.
Were you like groomzilla, like bridezilla?
No. I was absolutely calm. It was just more trying to make sure that COVID wasn't going to be an issue, making sure that people were
safe.
Going to be okay and safe, making sure we were safe, like making sure we didn't get COVID before the week, and our bridal party, making sure that they were going to be okay to do it. And I think that was the thing. Once everyone got through healthy and safe, we were fine. It's just I suppose you always think about the worst possible scenario where we have another COVID wave and everyone goes down. We've got to cancel different parts of the wedding or whatever it is, and I think that stress leading up to it made me use cricket probably as an out instead of my main focus. It was like, yep, off the field I'm concentrating on this, but on the field I don't have to think about anything, so I can just sort of focus and relax and have a bit of fun, and which probably wasn't the case during the Big Bash because we were COVID struck so badly, and being captain, having to, I suppose, be responsible for a lot of guys on the field and have to meet new teammates because the whole team's gone down, the whole coaching staff's gone down with COVID, and that was probably a really stressful time as well. I think just to add to the already stressful summer and pack it on top, it was that was a difficult part of the summer where we had a great list. Like for, I suppose in BBL terms, we felt like we had the same coverage as RCB. We felt like we had all bases covered, good spinners, good pace bowlers, and destructive batting lineup. And to have it continually struck down by COVID and have to chop and change a whole list when we feel like we're going well, it was difficult to take. It felt like we were just getting through the tournament barely by the skin of our teeth, and I think we only missed out by 1 point on finals. And
Wow.
And it was more because we had to play with a club team for 2 games because we had no players left.
But does life ever go as we plan it? I don't think it ever does, right?
Well, not during COVID times, no. I think before COVID, everything sort of generally you sort of saw the way that most things planned out, but the last 2 years have been a genuine guessing game.
The entire world kind of mourned and felt greatly for was the demise of the great Shane Warne. And I know you were very dear friends with him. And it looks like, Maxi, there's something that's kind of rubbed off onto you, that there's more to you than the cricket that you play off the field. You're very giving, you're kind, you have a lot of love to give. And you knew Shane Warne really well as well. Was he just like that?
Yeah, he was. Like he's probably the most giving and loyal person that I've probably ever met. Generous, not just with what he did with his charity work and all that sort of stuff, but generous with his knowledge and time.
Yeah.
He actively sought out young spinners before games, like during their warm-ups, to talk them through different skill sets and like different techniques, and trying to help them out, trying to make them the best version of themselves, which is an amazing thing. And every player that ever came across him and would talk to him about what the skill, leg spin or whatever it is, felt like they had a connection instantly, because that's the way he made you feel. It's like he makes you feel like your best friend straight away, and he's able to sort of, I think I saw a video of him just stopping and talking to this kid. The guy said, "Oh, look, my son bowls list." He goes, "All right, we'll grab a ball and start bowling some, and I'll watch what you've got." It was just like in the car park, and he sort of talked to him about his wrist and all that sort of stuff, and that was what he was like. He knew he had an amazing skill set and an amazing ability to do something, and he just wanted to help other people as well. And obviously loved his family and loved his poker and his golf, and he was such a good guy to get to know. I suppose post cricket, and I was so lucky that I was able to play some golf with him, chat to him off the field, talk to him on the phone. He cared a lot. He'd message me and sort of see if I was going okay. So he'd always know if something's up. Like
just sense it.
It's just sense it straight away. So he saw me before one of the Big Bash games. Was just walking around, had a small chat, and I I wouldn't say I brushed him, but I sort of went, all right, I better get going, and I sort of just walked away. And he messaged me afterwards. He goes, I just went, "You're all right?" And I sort of said, "Oh, I'm all right. Blah, blah, blah. Are you okay?" And he checked in a couple of times, and then the fourth time I finally sort of opened up and sort of said, "Oh, this is what's going on." He goes, "Mate, just take it easy, take a break, do whatever you need to do. I'm always here for you." Blah blah blah. And I was like, he was always going to get the answer that he wanted. Like he was just going to probe and probe and probe until he got it, and that was just the sort of guy he was.
Your brother's been a big part of your life. He was here as well in the bubble for some time. Has that relationship always been the same?
With my brother,
Yeah.
I think once I got older and started to understand the world a bit and catch up to, I suppose, his age. He's obviously a lot 9 years older than me, and
Right.
very. I suppose growing up, he was very driven. He's the odd one out in the family. If he gets homework, he'll go home and do it straight away, so he doesn't have to worry. Where myself and my sister will leave it to the last moment,
Yeah.
and then it'll be stressful.
Right.
Well, he'll never have that stress. He gets given a task, he'll just.
He's the good child.
He's the good child. Like he's the only one that's probably that sort of driven. I suppose he's very well qualified. I think he's got a master's in electrical engineering. In computer engineering, and he's switched on. He could have pretty much any job he wants, and he just sort of floats around. And
What are your conversations like? I mean,
we
I'm sure it's not cricket coaching. I think it's a lot more about life.
we talk about all sorts of things. It's
Right.
most of the stuff is just jokes. Like we just laugh at each other. We've got the same sense of humour.
Just life in general. Has there been a moment where you've experienced it and thought, man, my life is never going to be the same again?
It could have even been a Champions Trophy or Champions League 2013 playing for Mumbai.
Yeah.
I got some runs. I think it was in the final against Rajasthan, and I got 30. I only got 37, but it was off like 13 balls, and I played some ridiculous shots and just didn't miss the middle of the bat most of the time. I was out in the middle, and after that game, I only really understood. Same thing. Like when I'm batting, I'm not. It's not that I'm not thinking, but I'm just in the zone. All I'm worried about is hitting the ball that's coming down to me, and then later on I can reflect or sort of let it sink in. And it was only when I sort of sat down later on and saw the result of the game happens, and you sort of see your impact for what it has in the game, and I sort of thought that was actually pretty significant. That was an amazing effort. And then going forward, that was almost the kickstart. I got picked up by Kings 11 and had that amazing run.
Yeah.
The opportunity to open the batting for Australia in a one-day game when we were only chasing 75 or something against the West Indies. I've gone out there and got 50. The auction's the next day, and it ends up being a life-changing event. But as I said, there's all these little moments where you take your opportunity, something good comes from it. You take your opportunity, something good comes from it. It starts a sort of snowball effect, and all I ever wanted to be when I started to nail my position down for Australia, all I wanted to be was consistent and be able to play my role as well as I could. And once those results started to become more consistent, you can start to really enjoy those little things a little bit more, and probably only more so recently that sort of happened.
Thanks, Maxi. Thank you so much.
No worries.